Can you? Good evening, everyone. This is the May 11th, 2021 meeting of the Kingston Conservation Advisory Council. My name is Julie Noble, and I am the chair. With us today, we have Lorraine Farina, council members Lorraine Farina, Emily Hauser, Kevin McAvoy, myself, and Sebastian Pilateri. We also have guests today, City Planner Sue Cahill, Parks and Recreation Director Lindsay Timbrook, Environmental Specialist Ellie Gartenstein, and a few other guests by phone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:06 p.m. I will ask everyone to stay muted unless you are speaking. Certainly you can raise your hand if you'd like to speak. I will call on you, and we will have a public speaking portion of the agenda, and then during each agenda item, once the council has discussed each item, we will open it up for folks for discussion as well. So let me just check in with Lorraine. Lorraine, are you good with sound? Hopefully you can hear us all right. I'm not sure what's going on with your audio. So hopefully you can hear us all right. Give me some sort of thumbs up in the chat or okay or something if you can, if everything's good.
Julie?
Yes.
Let's see. Gosh.
Nope. So are you called in also? If you are, or even if you aren't, it would probably make sense to just call in if there's feedback with both. While Lorraine is figuring that out, I'm going to welcome our guests and also open up for public comment. Is there any public comment that anyone would like to make for the record?
I would.
Okay, and if you could just tell us who you are.
Yes. Rebecca Martin. I'm here from KingstonCitizens.org. I want to apologize. Last month, I was hoping to stream the meeting. I didn't realize it was live, and I logged in, and I'm here as a resident of the city of Kingston and also representing our community group. Thanks to the CAC for bringing forward a recent development regarding a gate placed at the entrance of Kingston Point Beach, and the decision that was made unilaterally by the city of Kingston's executive branch and perhaps the staff as an outcome of a vandalism complaint or complaints. Following last month's CAC meeting, our group supported a communication suggested by the CAC to be submitted to the Common Council Public Safety Committee regarding concerns that have been raised about public access to public spaces on the Hudson River. This request would initiate a dialogue between the public and their elected representatives in a formal manner. So there was pushback on our initial blog post outlining of the process by some of the members of the CAC, which we helped hopefully to clarify the following day in an additional post. But to share our thinking, so it's clear tonight that at last month's CAC meeting, the gate at Kingston Point Beach was discussed, as we know, as I've said, in a conversation by members and the public ensued as to what would be within the purview of the CAC in a letter and where the letter could or should be addressed. So the options included to be sent to the Kingston Common Council and Council Liaison, the Recreation Commission and Recreation Department, and the Mayor of Kingston. The executive branch and his staff was suggested by CAC Chairwoman Julie Noble, who said that the council played no role in public lands other than acquiring land and divesting park land, and that they didn't have authority over how the parks were operated. The CAC, in its advisory capacity, is charged in advising the Planning Board and Common Council on matters pertaining to the natural environment of the city, coordinating with local groups like ours, which have an impact on the local environment, and working in cooperation with the Kingston Planning Board and Common Council to make sound environmental decisions. The CAC has participated at regular monthly meetings of the Common Council's Public Safety and General Government Committee meetings, or at least it has for many years, where it has provided updates to the members of the Common Council regarding their ongoing environmental work. So what the public is interested in here is to open the matter with its council members for dialogue, which will not occur when a letter is submitted to the executive branch where there is no official public opportunity for dialogue. And that can only be initiated through a communication like this one by the CAC or through communications elsewhere submitted to the council president. And certainly anyone could submit a communication to the council president. However, once we learn that the CAC might take this up, it made the most sense for our environmental advocates who serve on the CAC to do that. And we hope you proceed. The CAC may feel, and this was the sense last month, that the following items are outside of its purview, such as the gate being opened and closed by the Kingston Police Department and the implications of that to all community members, instead of, for instance, being maintained as a function of the Kingston Parks Department, or the decision of a gate being placed at the entrance of a park unilaterally by the executive branch due to a complaint or complaints of vandalism, and where the funding for the gate was provided by an anonymous private donor. If that's the case tonight, then this is a great opportunity, I think, for the CAC to discuss at its upcoming retreat that was mentioned last month, embarking on educational opportunities for the council and the community to widen its lens to include the implications of systematic racism and its impacts to parks and public spaces. In the meantime, and thanks for your time, extra time, it would be appreciated if within your current scope of open space that you consider a communication to advise the Kingston Common Council that the matter be discussed in the General Government Committee of the Common Council to workshop solutions. I don't agree with Julie's assessment last month that the council doesn't play a role. They can, and one idea initially that comes to mind is that they can request that city park staff attend a council committee meeting to discuss its park management procedures, and in this case, how gates are selected for entrances to parks, such as the one at Kingston Point Beach, and why. And if it's needing resources, that's another avenue for the council to be able to hear from Lindsay and her staff as to what their park needs might be. So as we've already stated publicly, KingstonCitizens.org does not support gates that deter access to public spaces for any reason. Not for Kingston Point Beach, not for the Empire State Trail. Instead, the city could provide more education, signage of park rules and policies, and activities, and I'm sure 100 other ways to help to sustain our park system equitably. Thanks for bringing this forward and for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any other public comment? Tanya?
Thanks. I'm sorry if I repeat anything that Rebecca said. I missed. I didn't sign in on time, but I wanted to say that I went and checked on the gate yesterday, I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday, and I went there when it was daylight hours, but it had only been light for like 20 minutes. The gate was closed, so I called the number, which gets you to the police dispatch, and I asked some questions, so I was transferred to a sergeant who told me that they've been asked to open the gate by 7 a.m. So that's after daylight hours by a good amount of time. I was there at 5:30 in the morning, and it had been light for good 20 minutes. And at 6 a.m., the Empire State Trail gate opens. And this parking lot is actually on the signage as the parking lot for the Empire State Trail. So there's a good hour after the trail opens that the parking lot is not yet available. It's also on the signage as a point of a trailhead. So I think it's problematic that it's not till 7 a.m. that it opens. It's not actually in daylight. It's not even planned to be open during the daylight full hours. He also said that it was he said they closed it as early as 7:30. So that's before daylight ends too, but also half an hour before the Empire State Trail closes. I think it's really problematic that you have to call the police when the gate is not open if you need to access it. And I certainly hope that they're not locking anybody's cars in overnight. I felt comfortable calling the police, but I know that a lot of people would not feel comfortable calling the police. For a while, it was the backup was the DPW. Now it's the rec department is the backup for when that fails to open it at all if the police get busy or something. This is a huge amount of resources that we're using to close a gate, which is not really answering any of the problems that it was meant to answer, at least officially meant to answer. We're actually, I mean, I'm going on the assumption that it was Carl Sloven that donated this gate. And if he did donate the gate, we're letting Carl Sloven plan for us in a way that doesn't really make sense. It's a lot of expense for Kingston. And I would argue that it's not worth it. It's one thing to close the Hasbrook gate because we aren't going to have to plow if it's closed. And so maybe you could think of it as leveling off so we don't have to plow up there, but this is a whole different situation. It's not the same as the Hasbrook gate. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tanya. Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Okay, so we will move forward with our agenda. Are there any modifications?
One question, point of order. I was going to ask Rebecca, Reb, do you have a prepared text that you were reading from or anything?
No, I was speaking, I had bullet points, but I could send you my bullet points if that would
Okay,
be
just want to
helpful.
make sure I didn't miss something or gets lost in the shuffle. You said something, I thought I heard something else. We don't want any of that. No.
So
And-
Rebecca, if you would like to submit any comments formally, you can send them to me or Kevin.
Yeah, I would just use it
Thanks.
for reference. That's it. It isn't like it's going to get appended to the minutes or something. I would use it for reference. So I have most of what you said, but I just want to make sure, it's accurate. And Tanya, I think I missed what the response of the police department was when you called them.
I reached the number that's posted on the gate reaches the KPD dispatch. And when I started asking questions, I was transferred to Sergeant Lau. And he said that the KPD, he said, we were told to open the gate by 7 a.m.
That's what I thought I heard. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to submit I'll fill out my talking points and send them to Julie and Kevin, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'll make sure it's, gets in, into the minutes and, in proper format.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are there any modifications to the agenda? I am going to suggest that we move Kingston Point Beach gate concerns to our first item on old business after we approve the minutes. Is everyone okay with that? Thumbs up if you are council members.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other modifications? I'm also going to, okay, never mind. Yeah, okay, great. So then we will move forward. Approval of the April 2021 monthly meeting minutes. everyone had a chance to see those. Emily, thank you for submitting, and Rain, thank you for submitting your clarifications. Are there any other clarifications to the minutes that anyone needs to make?
I have a question for Tanya, which I think Emily asked me, and it was it the March Parks and Rec meeting or the April Parks and Rec meeting? I went back and looked at the minutes to Parks and Rec, and the April isn't posted yet, but March was, and it looked like you were referencing the March meeting that you attended, but
Yeah, March 4th, 21 meeting. They have
March
minutes,
4th,
but not
okay.
video.
Yeah. There are no minutes, but no agenda. Yeah, right.
Right,
I
for that
went
one,
through
yeah.
all that, and that's where that's why I didn't put the date in there.
Thanks.
Okay, so Emily, is that okay? March 4th?
So that was under new business.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just for accuracy.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I just didn't have the date and I couldn't find it, so and now we're good. Okay,
Okay, any other? Sebastian?
I just have one, just that I think it was in there and then struck out, but I indicated that I did actually say that I went to the recording just to double check. That
okay.
the CAC may consider commenting on this to the Common Council.
Okay, so that's also under new business. D.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
see that.
Sebastian indicated that the CAC may consider commenting on this to the Common Council.
Yeah.
Okay, Kevin, are you with us?
I'm looking at Emily's version right now. Where was that struck out?
If you look under
Yeah,
D, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines up from the bottom.
okay, from the bottom, 1, 2,
From the-
3, 4, 5. From the bottom, 1,
From the
2.
bottom of Roman numeral 5.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to go back to the original and look at this because I'm looking at Emily's comments
Okay.
and
I-
no, I don't see where it got struck out.
Maybe this is an old version that I'm looking at then.
No, you're looking at the right version.
Oh, okay.
I see somewhere here where Sebastian discussed and I don't know what got taken out. I'm not sure.
Yeah, further than that. Keep going further than that.
Yeah, then, well, the next paragraph is Tanya noticed that the gate is open later.
Yep, keep going.
Okay. Deleted her. Discussion by CAC members included private funding for the improvements.
It's there. You can just put it back in if you want. I'm not sure. It might have just gotten blocked out with the
Oh,
rest.
wait a
But I
second. You
think part
found
of
it.
this is, I think part of this is how much needs to be attributed to, as you can see, I took my name out.
Yeah,
If you want to know, this is general discussion. And this is just general discussion, so.
Mhm.
Okay, I found it. The text was collapsed on the side on my version. Okay, I just opened the text up and it is good.
Okay.
So we'll reinsert that. I'll go back to the previous minutes and make sure it gets into the right place where it had been. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Sebastian, you have something else?
I just want to say thanks.
Anything else?
I just have one comment, Julie, if I may, Rebecca here.
On the minutes?
Just to Kevin,
Yeah,
that one of the caveats of COVID is that everything's recorded. And so it's really easy and good. I mean, I went actually back to the video to watch to make sure that the things that I'm bringing forward were actually stated. And so it's a good way to check at the City of Kingston's YouTube channel.
Yeah, no, I
It's,
know that. I just don't always have time to redo a 2-hour meeting.
All right, so I need to, are there any other comments on the minutes? If not, I need a motion to accept the April 13th, 2021 minutes as amended.
I move.
Emily, can I get a second? Sebastian, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Lorraine? Do we lose Lorraine?
Lorraine, you're muted.
I don't know if Lorraine is even here.
No, I can call her up.
Can you call her? I
Yep.
don't know if we've lost her for good here. She definitely needs to call in. Otherwise, either way, we still have quorum, so that is adopted as amended 4-1, I guess, since Lorraine is not currently here. All right, so moving on to old business, Kingston Point Beach Gate. To bring everyone up to speed officially as an agenda item, last month at our prior to our CAC meeting, there was a request from a CAC member. Well, there was a request at the meeting to add Kingston Point Beach concerns from the community onto the agenda. We agreed with unanimous acclamation to add it to the agenda and had a discussion last month per what you have heard so far in this meeting. We have been working on a draft letter to the mayor, police chief, Parks and Recreation Director, and Recreation Commission, which we will discuss this evening. Prior to that, I would like to give an opportunity for the Parks and Recreation Director, Lindsay Timbrook, to give us an overview of the operation of the gate. I will say that typically the Conservation Advisory Council does not advise on operations of parkland, but we have just been discussing this in the context of open space, and certainly parkland is open space. So I thought that it would be most valuable for us to have Lindsay here to explain to us from an operational perspective, everything that can clarify what people's concerns might be or questions might be, so that it's not secondhand, that it's coming directly from the person who is operating. So I want to hand it over to Lindsay. We'll give Lindsay an opportunity to speak. The CAC will discuss, and then we will open it to anyone from the public. Emily.
Okay, so we need to tell, first of all, I reached Lorraine and she needs to know how she can unmute her phone. So I think she needs to do *6. Does anyone have any other? Okay, so it's *6. And I just wanted to make sure we recognized everyone who was on the meeting, and someone just left. So I guess we don't need to recognize them. And also, if people are using their phones and they can always change their phone number to their name, so we see them. But
I think it was Rashida.
yeah, Rashida was on.
Yeah.
But she left.
But Lorraine,
Anyway, so Lorraine
Lorraine's
hung
not
up.
called in right now.
I know Lorraine hung up to talk to me. So she's calling.
Okay, so can you work with her to get on?
Oh yeah, I guess I could.
Okay. Do you want me to wait a moment so that, is she able to just get in?
I thought she was just calling back. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, here
Well,
she
she has to look up the number. There she
Here
is.
she is. Lorraine, is that you?
Is that better?
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. And then did you try? Oh, does anyone know if it's *6 to mute or is it #6?
You did it. I did it, Emily. So I think that's better. I hope.
Yep, you're
Okay. And then try *6 again to mute.
Okay. Let's see.
all right. Very good. Yep, she is muted. She did it. Okay. All right,
Okay,
so
great.
You're all set, Lorraine?
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, so Lindsay, welcome. Thanks for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, CAC, for having me. I'm happy to talk a little bit about the gate at the beach. I can tell you it was put in, I believe, in the early fall of last year. I think that for the most part, we didn't have any issues until the warmer weather came around and folks, went down to the beach, noticed that it was not unlocked a few times. And I realized that created a lot of inconvenience and a lot of confusion. So currently the way it stands and the way it was developed is that the parks, all our parks are open dawn to dusk. The beach, when the gate was installed, it was decided that the police department would be the ones to lock it and unlock it, mostly because of the hours that it would need to be locked and unlocked. Our Parks and Rec staff are not, working outside of their traditional 7 to 3 hours unless they're scheduled for specific overtime. During the seasonal months that we have programs and additional trash pickup, park cleanups, usually I think May to October, our staff are on the weekends, and so they can sometimes work 3 hours in the morning. Currently, our staff are working 6 to 9 on the weekends. And so if they go down to the beach and the gate is locked, they will be the second line to unlock the gate. But as it stands, the police department is the first stop. That's their first location to go to unlock when the sun comes up. They also go to Hasbrook Park, the upper gate. Not only is that closed during the winter, but that is also closed in the evenings by KPD. And I believe that decision came when they were noticing a lot of dumping happening. A lot of illegal dumping was happening. They were finding TV sets, tires, large items in the woods, in the trails. And so I do believe that was why that gate was put in place. I think another gate that currently exists is at Rotary Park. That gate actually does not get unlocked at all unless a key is reserved by someone utilizing the park so that they can, bring items in and out. But traditionally that gate remains closed at all times. Folks walk in and out the same way that they could even at Upper Hasbrook or the beach if it were closed for some reason. Another gate that we do have that's closed is the Forsyth Nature Center gate. That actually stays closed during operation hours for pedestrian safety. I think they had noticed that, families, kids, people trying to cross into the nature center, cars were speeding through. And so they decided it was safer to put the gates up, at least during the time that the zoo was open. I do realize that there have been some issues with the gate. We have worked with the police department. We've worked with the mayor's office to try to rectify that. And I have also heard concerns about the sign that's up and that the number to call is the police department. And, I do realize that some folks are not happy about that. But traditionally, we don't have staff that are scheduled when the gate is to be opened or closed. And so that, I believe, was the reason that came up. I don't know if there's any more specific kinds of questions. If there's a question as to why the gate was installed at the beach, there were a number of concerns that came up, not just from the public, but also from our maintenance staff. They were, upon coming in the morning and doing their rounds on the beach, they were finding a lot of damage, illegal items, dangerous situations that they would come across. And so, I think that there were a lot of people that were expressing concerns with certain activities that were happening overnight outside of regular business hours.
Okay, does anyone from the council have questions for Lindsay?
Lindsay, could you just run us through the other parks with gates?
Yeah.
There was one where you had dumping and I didn't quite catch that.
That's Hasbrook, Upper
That was
Hasbrook.
Hasbrook. Okay, that I got. Okay. So you just discussed Hasbrook and Forsyth?
And Rotary Park.
Rotary Park. Okay, that's
Rotary.
yes,
And
yeah.
my understanding, my understanding from speaking with the staff, that gate was installed. They had noticed that cars were driving through the park and damaging the grass area. And so that gate remains closed at all times.
Mhm.
I will also just note, with familiarity to the Parks Department, that there is also a gate at Lauren Park preventing anyone from driving in from the
Yes.
Charlotte side, and there's also a gate at Hutton Park on the
The
lower
playground.
playground side.
Yeah.
And historically, there was also a gate at Forsyth from the Lucas Avenue side, and at Kingston Point Beach, where the current gate is. Any questions from the council other questions for Lindsay?
I guess I have one kind of general question. So at our last meeting, we brought it up and it was said that it was because of vandalism was the reason the gate was installed, and then the gate was also vandalized. So I understand the gate at Hasbrook to stop people from driving up with cars to dump things. I understand a gate to stop traffic. Is this gate stopping the issues that you guys were experiencing at Kingston Point Beach?
I mean, I don't think that it's stopped all issues. I think that from my perspective, I have not gotten as many phone calls about damaged items. Granted, it is not the busy season yet. It is not the warmer months yet. And so we're hopeful that, as we move into the warmer season, that we won't see those kinds of things. But, there's always graffiti that, whether there's a gate or no gate, I'm sure we would see that at any rate. But I do not hear so far, I have not heard the same types of complaints from our maintenance staff that we were receiving last summer.
Emily?
Lindsay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Let-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Emily and then Lorraine.
Lindsay, from your experience as a Park and Recs Commissioner, have you had opportunity to look into whether or not volunteers can perform this duty? I did talk to the Taconic Region Director of Parks, and she said that they get by with volunteers sometimes paid staff, and I believe that the walkway over the Hudson depends on volunteers. So have you looked into that? And following on to that, has anyone looked into any kind of remote unlocking of the gate?
I have not heard of anyone suggesting a remote unlocking of the gate. As far as volunteers, we have not looked into volunteers for that specific purpose, but we do get that request with other things. And I have spoken to Corp Counsel in other regards about that. It does, when it comes to volunteers, there are some concerns as far as insurance and liability and things like that, that sometimes have to be considered. So for the gate, no, that was not suggested to my knowledge. But I do know that in other areas, it's been brought up as a way to help out with parks or certain events and things like that.
Okay, Lorraine?
Yeah, thank you. Lindsay, thank you for your report. I took some notes while you were speaking, and I heard you say that one of the reasons the gate was placed at Kingston Point was due to illegal items. So I was wondering if you might elaborate on that. What kinds of things did you mean?
Alcohol, alcohol is not permitted on the beach. Glass items not permitted on the beach. Needles, drug use, things of that nature. That's typically what our laborers would find in the morning. Without getting into too much detail, there's been some graphic things that they have found.
I'll just say that I walk locally at the Hutton Park, and I have seen drug activity on that ramp during perfect daylight hours, where where there's a secluded spot. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I think it is more that kind of activity is more available to people when there are cars involved because they have the cover of the car, as opposed to folks who would walk in. So that's why I was wondering whether that's what you had in mind when you said illegal activity. So thanks for clarifying that.
Sure. Okay. Other comments or Sebastian?
Also, I want to back up and just say thank you also for spending your evening with us talking. I didn't begin that way, and I'm so grateful that you're here, so thank you.
No problem. Happy to be here. Thank you.
I guess it's thinking, and I don't know if we have the answer to this here, but you mentioned, I want to be respectful too. You said that park staff didn't feel safe necessarily being there to unlock the gate. But I guess my other question was just thinking about allocation of resources and wanting to know or hear from anyone. I understand from a safety perspective, people don't feel safe involving the police to have them open the gate. But surely from like a cost perspective, I could imagine that I'm sure the police have to be paid overtime as well if they're called in to open the gate, and that the city would still incur those costs. And maybe my question is, if the Parks Department needs more funding so that they're able to open a gate as opposed to having those costs borne by the police department, should that be something?
They're not. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. You can go ahead.
They're not called in to open the gate. They're not. It's not overtime. It's whoever's on. It's whoever's on duty, and that was yeah. And so that's kind of the issue that they'll run into if they get a call to a dangerous situation or just something that's much more pressing. It's been explained to us that that's happened a few times where they're in the middle of something, even if it is at 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes things come up and they obviously have to go to that instead. And that person that maybe was assigned to open the gate then did not get to the gate. And so that has come up quite a bit. Yeah.
Just for my own edification, if I want to go down there at 5:30 and put my kayak in, I'm willing to drag it over the gate. Is there a safe and legal place for me to park?
I would say across the street.
In the parking. Yeah. So there's parking across
the softball field.
And the same thing for ambulatory people using the gate for the Empire State Trail. There is a legal place to park. They wouldn't have to park on the road, on the side of the road.
No, the other parking lot is available, open. That could still be used and folks could still enter as they needed to if the gate was still locked, excuse me.
And I will just add, just as someone who's managing parks construction project down at the Point, beginning imminently within the next week or so, and through September, we are doing a major construction project at Kingston Point. You can see the workings of that already, but the contractor has been chosen and the contract is being negotiated as we speak. But the point of this conversation is that the parking lot that is south of Delaware Avenue now, that is half inundated all the time, is being allowed to revert back to a wetland and facilitated to become a wetland. And the equivalent number of parking spots that we are reverting back to wetland are being constructed in a new parking lot that is elevated to the north of Delaware Avenue. So by September of this year, as you're coming down Delaware Avenue, and if you were to turn left to go to the beach, on the left-hand side there will be a 45 to 50 space parking lot and soccer field in that space there. And so as early as September, folks could park in that parking lot at any time. That parking lot currently is not projected to be gated off at any time. So, we will be moving the gate further along down the beach road, but there will be parking there, which will be even closer if people needed to park there. But still, the park will still be open and closed from dusk to dawn.
So I have one more question for Lindsay. Lindsay, Do you foresee more concerns about not being able to stay with your vehicle because of the sunsets being later and later during the summer? Do you foresee more complaints that the gates close before dusk? And have you had very many complaints?
No, we haven't gotten that complaint. At least I haven't. I don't know. I can't speak for other, individuals or offices, but my office has not received any complaints about it being closed earlier than it should. And I don't believe any of my commissioners have received that complaint. It's mostly just been about the morning. But we do have, with softball starting up, our volleyball program starting up, we do have a seasonal employee that I believe will be helping out with closing the gate in the evenings because he makes his rounds to turn off the lights at all the fields and at the park location. So I would expect that the gate should be able to stay open later if it's been being closed before sunset.
Okay, other questions or concerns from the council? Any questions or concerns from the community for Lindsay? Okay. Thank you, Lindsay, very, very much.
Thank you.
Do we want to have a discussion about the letter at this point, or should we let Lindsay head on?
I'm going to move that we table the letter.
Okay. Can I get a second? Okay, so no second. So then we will discuss the letter.
I'll second that, I think. Yes, this is Lorraine. Oh, wait.
Okay,
We hear you.
we hear you. A second from Lorraine. Any discussion about tabling the letter?
The reasoning why we're tabling the letter.
Emily?
I think we've got, I'm still concerned about whether this is even our purview.
Okay, Lorraine, your reasoning and seconding?
*6, Lorraine.
Lorraine, you're muted still.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, can you put the letter, can you send me the letter in an email so I can just see it again and then we can proceed? Is that the letter? No, was that in the materials? I didn't see that for tonight.
No, it was a Google Doc from Sebastian.
Okay. Yeah, let's see.
Send it right now, Lorraine.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mm-hmm. You just want.
I do want to say, regardless of if we move forward with the letter now, I will be recusing myself from any vote on the letter since I work for the Parks Department.
I just sent it. Also,
Okay.
there are a bunch of edits in there that are not going to be reflected in the text because I just copy and pasted it into an email.
Okay. Thank you. I'm looking for it. Oh, okay. I think I see it. Okay. Let's see. Edit. Okay. I'm opening it in the doc so I should be able to see everything. Thank you, Sebastian. Okay. Yes, yeah, I think in view of what, can you hear me? I'm so sorry,
Yes.
but I can't ever tell.
You're good.
Okay. I think in view of what I've heard tonight, from Lindsay, it seems to me that we should table this because there was, for me, the information about the the elaboration on why the gate was installed to begin with isn't covered here in this letter. So I think we need to rework that. That's my take on it.
Okay. Is there any discussion from Kevin or Sebastian about the motion?
Would we want to include the common council in this at a later date if we're tabling it tonight? Would that be a future edit?
I'd be in favor of that.
With the intent?
It's like, I think I don't think that should be part of tabling it. I mean, we could change the letter completely and make any decisions we want. We're just not gonna do it now. We're not gonna, I mean, we can review it, we could vote on it, or we could think about it more and let it come up next time.
Okay. So we're just, the motion is just a table and
Emily, do you want to clarify your motion?
What do you mean?
Kevin, do you need clarification on the motion?
I think we're just going to state that it's a motion to table. Right? And then we'll have to have.
That is the
further
motion. The motion
discussion.
currently is to table, which is to not work on it tonight.
Yeah, subject to further discussion.
Is that your motion, Emily?
Sure. Let me think about it. I mean,
Take your time. I'm not trying to put words in.
yeah, well, part of this is that, you know, we have a huge agenda tonight. And I didn't hear from necessarily everyone, or I didn't see everyone comment on the letter or anything. So I guess I just feel like it's premature and that we can take this up in a month.
Okay, so your motion is to table for discussion at the June meeting.
What are my options? To table it forever?
I don't think.
I don't know. I mean, if there's someone who knows Robert's rules of order.
Kevin knows Robert's rules best.
Oh, yeah. I think we're tabling it at this meeting.
Okay, Kevin.
We'll
or
review at a
Sebastian, you have
later date.
I have two comments. I mean, I think, Emily, your first point for tabling it was scope. And I think we could address that now if that's what you want to have addressed. The second reason for tabling just being to not want to discuss this tonight. I mean, just frankly, I've never seen this number of people at one of our meetings before, and there's clearly community interest, and that community interest is about this right now. And so tabling it and making people come back in June, I think is doing them a disservice because they showed up tonight to talk about this, seemingly. And that we should try to have that discussion. I get what you're saying, where the members of the public haven't chimed in yet, but I do think that people are here.
I withdraw
this
my
issue.
motion. I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I'm happy if we want to take time to think about the exact content of this. I don't feel comfortable just tabling it indefinitely. And I invite, I'll stop.
Maybe the way to do this is what the council recently did. Don't table it, continue it.
Which is yes.
Yeah, continue for discussion at the
No,
next.
let's just go ahead. You know, how are we going to do this though? Are we going to read the letter? Are we going to show it on the screen?
I don't think we need to do that.
Okay, so I have made phone calls and I have informed myself, and this is not anything that the Common Council can do. It can be copied to the Common Council. Steve Shabbat is the liaison. He is a councilman and he is the liaison to the Parks Commission. and he formerly was on the Parks Commission for a long time. So I think that we can copy him and we can, and that it should go to it should go to the people that are involved, which is the mayor, the Parks Commission, and the police department, because they are unlocking. So, I mean, Lindsay, are you a director? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'm the director of the department, but I sit as secretary on the commission.
Okay.
Okay. So this wasn't.
And by the way, that was my original suggestion.
So this document was done as a Google Doc. Each of us put comments into it. So what if we're not tabling, then what is the action currently that someone is proposing? I guess if we're not tabling, then the other option would be that everyone feels comfortable with the current language and that we would accept all the changes that we've had and that I would forward it on.
If you're not comfortable, which it sounds like, I'm not sure if people are comfortable or not. It sounds like there's a lot of discussion here. Continue it to the next meeting then. Unless there's a sense of urgency that this has to be done immediately.
I mean, there isn't anything that is going to, there's nothing, there's no timeline for the gate. Whatever is currently operating will continue to operate whether or not we send this letter today or in 6 months.
I wasn't suggesting 6 months. I think it should be resolved as soon as possible. So, I mean, it could be the next meeting. If it can't be tonight, if people want to do it tonight, then let's revisit that. But it sounds like we've already had a motion made to table, a second, a motion withdrawn, and now where are we going with this? The motion's been withdrawn. So do we need another? I believe we need another motion to take action.
I move to move it forward as is, as edited.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Sebastian, okay.
Any discussion? Okay, so I will call for the vote. If the motion is to take the draft letter that is been worked on by the CAC, addressed to Mayor Noble, Lindsay Timbrook, Chief Tinty, and members of the Recreation Commission, addressing the CAC's concerns to Kingston Point Beach Gate, for me to take that letter and send it to those folks on CAC letterhead. All in favor?
Aye.
Kevin, Sebastian,
Aye. Yes.
Emily, Lorraine, what is your vote?
Where is Lorraine? We lost Lorraine again. I'm just gonna call her. Maybe we can just three-way call her in.
Can you call her and put her on speaker, please? So I stated before that I was going to abstain.
Sorry, the number you called was.
Sorry.
Now you're muted. I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
And so we don't currently have Lorraine, but even without Lorraine, we do have quorum. And even without Lorraine, we still have, the motion still carries. So I will take this letter and I will clean up the redlining, and I will send it to the folks mentioned. All right. Is there any other discussion about Kingston Point Beach Gate?
Julie, can I make a closing statement?
Sure.
So I appreciate the council's work here, and I know it's been somewhat contentious from my side as being confusing with the process that I had outlined, but I really appreciate you doing what you've done. And I wonder if it's possible that you could just at least copy the council president, so that she's aware of the action that you're taking. And if the council decides that they want to submit a communication to take it further, I think that would be helpful.
That would have to come from a CAC council member to make that motion to modify who this letter is being sent to. Also, our council representative, which is Michelle Hirsch, is not here tonight. So currently this letter is stated to be sent to the mayor, the Recreation Commission, the police chief, and the Parks and Rec director. If the CAC as a whole wishes to send it also to the council, then that would need to be a modification as a motion.
Okay, I mean, it's up to you, or it could just be the liaison if that's more appropriate, or not. We can also do that as well. Just a point of suggestion. Thanks.
I'm happy to make that
Hello?
motion.
Lorraine, welcome back.
Yes, I really have no idea why I was disconnected. I'm so sorry. But I've just been dialing the numbers to try to get back in, and then I was waiting to get back into the meeting. I kept on hold, so sorry about that. So I'm sorry, where did you leave off? I heard there was, the last I heard was Kevin, let's see, people were deciding whether to table for further, oh no, we were voting.
Yep, we voted on, there was a motion to move forward the letter as is, as edited.
Yes, okay.
We voted while you were not here.
Okay, oh, sorry, okay. All right.
Okay, so Sebastian, did you have something you wanted to put
To
forward?
Rebecca's comment, I'm happy to make a motion to add the council president to the letter, and we can revote.
And what is your reasoning?
I think that what was outlined,
Actually, before you do that, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. Go ahead, Sebastian.
I think one, just given it was a valid concern from a member of the community that they want to make this issue addressed by the Common Council. The second part is thinking through, Lindsay made a comment about parks not being able to pay overtime or not having the ability to afford overtime for these employees to be able to attend to the gate. And it does seem as though, or no, you didn't?
I don't think I said that. I just said that we don't have people on staffed at that hour. They're not scheduled at that time to be responsible for the gate. Whereas the police department has staff on 24/7. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I'll withdraw that then and just add that bringing this to the council, I think, creates an opportunity for there to be potentially more public engagement about this issue. People are clearly concerned about it. Having it go to the council allows them to be able to take this information and make whatever decision that they think is appropriate. And I don't see any harm necessarily in doing that.
They are all citizens and residents of the city of Kingston and can handle this themselves. We do not need to, we are addressing open space and a gate that is under the auspices of the executive and the parks and is being opened by the police. I personally have spoken to 2 councilmen. They feel it is not in their, they moved me on. They are not, this is not their auspices. And there are other people, there are ways to get your voice heard. We do not need to be the voice.
Other discussion? Lorraine, do you have any input on it?
I think I need to think about this. This is information that we didn't have last month. And hearing Emily say that, I feel unready myself to make a decision on this right now.
We invited Lindsay here so that we would understand the situation. We took that step so that we would inform ourselves.
Yeah.
And if anyone needs time to do more homework,
No, I feel it was very helpful to have Lindsay here, for sure. What I'm uncertain about is the Common Council's role. So now that you're raising your conversations, Emily, with them, it's just made me think we need a little more time. But, you know, maybe I'm in the minority here, so other people should say what they're thinking.
Well, Sebastian made the motion, Kevin seconded it, which means they support sending it to the council. Emily said that she does not support it. I am going to abstain.
As I say, I don't feel ready to vote, so I guess I have to abstain.
Okay.
Okay. So is there any other discussion before we actually vote? Okay, so I will call for the vote. The question at hand is whether there is a motion to take the letter that is currently addressed to Mayor Noble, Lindsay Timbrook, Chief Tinty, and members of the Recreation Commission regarding the gate at Kingston Point Beach, and additionally send it to a representative of the Common Council. Actually, Sebastian, who is it to send it to? So I have clarity on the motion.
Rebecca first indicated that she thought it would be appropriate to send to the president, Andrea Schott, city council president.
But who are you suggesting that the motion? You're the one who made the motion, not the.
I did make the motion. I know Rebecca didn't make the motion. I made the motion echoing her concerns and wanted to bring them forward to the council. And so I also am making that same motion to Andrea Schott.
Okay, so let the motion reflect that. We have a second. We have a motion from Sebastian, a second from Kevin. All in favor? Sebastian, Kevin, all opposed? Emily, and abstaining.
and I,
And,
And Lorraine, are you abstaining?
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Okay,
okay, I would say the motion failed.
the motion failed.
Yeah.
Emily? Emily, did you have something you want to say?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other discussion regarding this topic? All right, well, I want to thank Lindsay for being here and for the fruitful discussion regarding this topic. Thanks, Lindsay. You don't have to stick around. We do appreciate your time and you value your
Thank
time
you all.
with your young family. So thanks.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Okay, so we are going to move on to our next topic, which is Wood Smoke and Air Quality Subcommittee. I'm actually going to hand it over to, I know we have two topics under this one, both the letter to the planning board, but also the green fleet policy. Actually, let's do it in that order. So the letter to the planning board. Lorraine?
Yeah, thank you. So I had sent you all a version. I had sent you off all the most recent version, which included at the bottom Emily's revisions and her final version with an addition from me. So I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at that, but I just wanted to say that I am on board with sending Emily's version. So I would like to hear other people's take on that.
Okay, Sebastian and Kevin, did you guys have a chance to take a look at that letter?
Yes, I was a little confused with it, just because I think there were a couple of different takes on, different versions in the one document.
Right, where it says Emily's version at the bottom is the one I sent you the entire thing, but Emily's version is.
And did you edit it further?
I only added a couple of other scientific pieces at the bottom because Emily had put a note in there about maybe needing to clarify further science-wise. So those are the only additions I made.
Okay.
Okay, so we already voted on this, yes? I think that we probably, no? Didn't
No,
vote
we
on this?
haven't.
I think this was just, I don't know, I guess we have to look back in the notes.
No, if it's a substantial rewrite, I think we have to reconsider it.
Okay. So do I have a motion to accept the final letter to the planning board regarding the CAC's concern about wood smoke? Do I have a motion to send the letter as is drafted?
Motion to send. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, Lorraine's motion. Is there a second?
Could you clarify again? Sorry. Wait,
So this would be a motion to send the letter as modified, the Emily version of the modified Lorraine original letter, which would be sent to the planning board with regards to wood smoke.
yeah, I want to address Kevin's concern about a rewrite, and the original, my version was
Emily, 1 second,
written.
point of order. So Lorraine made a
Oh,
motion.
sorry.
I need a second before we discuss.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a second?
What are we seconding? I'm
We're
sorry.
seconding whether or not we are accepting this latest draft as the final version to be sent to the planning board. Is that
Oh,
correct,
okay.
Lorraine? That's what your motion is?
Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna second that.
Okay, second. So Emily, go ahead. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that I had kind of rewritten it so that it really stated the issue up front and then gave the scientific information on the bottom. And that was done on March 26th. And then we had a meeting in April and we said we would talk about it further and address it between now and May, and we have. But there was only minor, I believe only minor changes. I think that we came to kind of we couldn't achieve consensus, and I believe that was at the April meeting. And we asked, and we said we'd work on it further.
Yes.
So it wasn't, and to address, there was not a huge amount of changes between March 26th and this meeting.
Right.
Okay, any other discussion?
Lorraine, the way I'm reading this is there's an appendix now with the scientific citations, right?
Right, that's.
Postscript
that
or
was
attachment.
Yeah, let's say postscript. Yeah, postscript or attachment, however people feel it should read. I mean, frankly, I would prefer to say references or something like that, but it's fine if it says postscript or attachment. That's what's here.
Well, then let's just call it an attachment.
Okay.
attachment.
And then it needs to be referred to as such in the body.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
And that attachment was my suggestion in March.
Right.
It's basically, providing a reference or fact sheet at the end.
Right. So let's see if I have it here.
Okay, so Lorraine, are you
I'm
looking to discuss that more?
I'm trying to find a version that we can.
While you're doing that, Sebastian, did you have your hand up?
Kind of. I think my issue with I think I made comments in another version of this, and Lorraine, you addressed one of the comments. I still feel like it stands though, where the argument being made here is that any amount of PM 2.5 is harmful to human health and thus ought to be regulated by the planning board. I recognize that the literature you have, the literature says wood smoke is most concerning, but wood smoke is not the only thing that contributes and causes PM 2.5. If we're drawing that scientific link and saying any amount of PM 2.5 is harmful and thus ought to be regulated under city code, I think that's just that's a big step, because that would apply to a lot of other things that aren't just wood smoke. And so I guess my concern would be maybe, I don't know, finding a way to address that within the letter so that we're not inadvertently calling for them to ban anything that might emit PM 2.5.
We are not doing that at all. The planning board does not regulate. And Suzanne's on the call. The planning board doesn't regulate. We are just pointing out what the law says. That's all we're doing. We're not asking anyone to, we're just informing them. We're not asking them to do anything.
You are, you're asking them to replace it with electricity.
And that we're suggesting, we're not asking. And this could be.
Go ahead, Emily.
Oh, it just says something like, there's alternatives, including electricity.
There are easily sourced clean alternatives to wood as a fuel, including electricity.
Yeah, I think that's well within our advisory capacity to advise about the science and what is known about the unique dangers of wood smoke pollution.
Sebastian, did you want to further discuss that?
No.
Emily, other further discussion? Is there any other further discussion, rather?
I don't have any, and I just wanted to say that I don't think there was any other version besides the one that had March 21st in the file name. So we should all be looking at the same one.
March 21st, doesn't say May 7th, 2021 on it?
No, the file name. I'm sorry.
March
The
26th.
file name is 032221 edits.
Right.
Yeah, there is another version. I don't know why, but Sebastian had commented on another version. But it had yours at the bottom, Emily. It was basically the one that we're looking at here. Sebastian basically made the comments that he just made here tonight. And I just answered those with the science that I have added to this current document that everybody's looking at.
So are you saying that the 3/22/21 version has Sebastian's comments incorporated into it or not?
Sebastian's, I responded to them, yes, in this current version, yes.
But since this version you sent, Lorraine, did you send out another version or is this it?
I did not. There is another one. You know what I think happened is when Emily had initially sent her revised version, her initial Emily's version, which was in March, she used her own, she started a new document. And so mine is still here, and that is the one that Sebastian was commenting on. And you all have that, you all should have that one. It says draft letter to planning board, April 2021. The other one has some numbers after it, which is the one that Emily was just referring to.
Oh, I just want to say that the reason I pasted in and changed my version, put it in at the bottom, was so that it wouldn't have to be so messy because I moved things around so much.
No, it was understandable. I understood why you did that.
Okay, so I still would like clarification. Right now,
Okay.
I'm
So
looking
I'm
at
going
a
to-
Google Doc that says draft letter RE adherence to code to planning board from CAC 03/22/21 edits. And at the top is
Right.
Lorraine's original letter and at the bottom is Emily's. Is that the version that is the final version?
Yes.
I thought, Lorraine, that you said that you added something about adding more data at the bottom. Is that reflected here in this version?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes.
And
Yeah,
Sebastian's
it's-
comments are in this version.
When you say comments,
Emily's point was that my comments weren't relevant because I didn't understand what the letter was asking. So I'm fine with that.
okay.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Right now, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? So we have a motion from Lorraine and a second from Emily to send this letter to the planning board. There's no more discussion. I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sebastian? All opposed?
I'll abstain. I don't know. Yeah.
And Sebastian is abstaining. Okay, so motion is carried. I will send this letter to the planning board without the red lines come the morning. All right, Lorraine, do you have any other report before we head over to Ellie?
No, I don't. That's it for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lorraine. I'm going to now hand over to Ellie Gartenstein, who is the environmental specialist for the city of Kingston. I don't recall if she's been on a CAC meeting yet, but she has worked for the city since the beginning of the year. She replaced Sean Coster, who was in that position and vacated the position last year. So she has taken up an initiative that Sean started, which was something that is originally started as part of an environmental asset manager grant that we have through the Department of Environmental Conservation. One of those stipulations of the grant, among other things, including greening our fleet, doing the fleet inventory, a number of other things related to greenhouse gas emissions reductions related to our fleet, is adopting or putting forward or developing a green fleet policy, and also, and we wrapped into that, an anti-idling policy. So what started as a draft with Sean and myself working on it while he was here, Ellie has taken the reins on that and moved it forward. This has been shared with the Climate Smart Kingston Commission for comments. It's also been shared with city staff, and Ellie will speak to that. Now it is here before the CAC, and the relevance being that certainly, of course, we have an air quality subcommittee, and although we do tend to work on wood smoke, we know that the other component that we have wanted to focus on has been anti-idling and emissions from vehicles. So I'm going to hand it over to Ellie, and I'm also going to share my screen so that we can see the draft of what she is presenting. So Ellie, thanks for being here.
Everybody. Thanks for having me. As Julie said, I've been working on this anti-idling policy, and it's wrapped into the Green Fleets policy. Hopefully, if all goes according to plan, we want to move forward with the anti-idling policy before moving forward with the Green Fleets policy, the Green Fleet policy being an internal policy and anti-idling being applicable, to the whole city. The reason for that being that there are provisions in the Green Fleet policy that reference the anti-idling policy that I've been working on. So just a real quick overview. This is a policy that pretty much would mandate any vehicle purchased or leased by the city of Kingston that is, an eligible vehicle, meaning that there are hybrid vehicles in its class, hybrid electric, battery electric vehicles in its class, that if there is a request to purchase a new vehicle by any department, that consideration first be given to green vehicles being defined as, plug-in hybrids, battery electric hybrids, or battery electric, fully electric vehicles like that. This was an action that was recommended in the 2020 Climate Action Plan. In the 2020 Climate Action Plan, it was suggested that by 2020, at least 10% of our city fleet be green vehicles. A couple weeks ago was looking at our inventory of city vehicles, and we have exceeded that percentage. We're at 14% of green vehicles, and that is all non-exempt vehicles. So this is light and medium duty vehicles. Heavy duty vehicles are exempt from this policy, given that green alternatives to those vehicles don't currently exist at this time. However, in the policy, it does state that it will be revisited every single year as technology progresses. So in the event that these heavy duty vehicles that we have options for replacing these heavy duty vehicles with green vehicles, that will be considered in the future. So this pretty much just lays out a couple of guidelines for purchasing of any vehicle. Currently, when we purchase a vehicle, it goes through purchasing, a mini bid is put out, and the vehicle is purchased at the request of the department. This policy would just mandate that prior to going to purchasing, prior to a mini bid going out, the request for a vehicle goes through the department. It would go through me, the environmental specialist, and I would just make sure that we are getting the most environmentally friendly vehicle while also being, suited for its, usage. Exemptions are the heavy duty vehicles that, are currently not available as green vehicles, such as bulldozers, excavators. Additionally, vehicles that have functions that require their, internal mechanisms to function at a higher rate than green vehicles currently can function, such as, police vehicles that have to go very, very fast, or, buses that carry large amounts of weight. These types of vehicles, their function, the functionality of the vehicle is the priority over the, greenness of the vehicle. However, just to reiterate, we will be revisiting this policy every single year as technology progresses, so that might change. Vehicle acquisition is very similar to how vehicle acquisition is currently. There's an additional step that the purchasing request has to go through me, just so I can make sure that we are giving priority to green vehicles. Here in guidelines, again, this is similar to how we do things already. A vehicle is purchased. We make sure that it is purchased to fit the needs of the purchasing department. It goes to DPW, where it is outfitted with any necessary, technology, anything that the vehicle needs. And then it is, the mayor has final approval on when it can be put on the road. Again, as is above in this policy, the only additional step is that it has to go through me. So again, so that we are making sustainable choices. Next, we have a section on our fleet inventory. Now, a fleet inventory is something that we already do. but putting it in the policy mandates that it will be done every year, and it's not something that's going to be overlooked or forgotten. And this also mandates that it will be accessible to the public, because currently it's just an internal inventory that I have on my computer. So this just says that this inventory that we keep already, we have to keep, and it has to be accessible to the public. Same thing with the fuel inventory. Currently, we keep a fuel inventory on a software called Fuel Master Plus, which I administer. This, same as the fleet inventory, is something that we already do, but we want to mandate that we have to do it. Additionally, we want to provide a full report of fuel use to the comptroller's office, which is something that has been done in the past. This policy is just pretty much mandating that these procedures that we already have in place will get done, and they will not be overlooked. And here we come to the section on idling reduction. I have been working on an anti-idling policy that I'm just going to quickly go over after we go through the green fleet policy. As we all know, idling is really bad for the environment, really bad for air quality, releases a lot of, greenhouse gas into the atmosphere, a lot of particulates. It's not good, not a good thing. This section of the policy just, restates that city employees have to abide not only by state regulations, but also by the city regulations that we hope to have in place, in the coming months by the end of the year, I hope. And those city regulations will be that anyone operating a medium or light duty vehicle cannot idle for more than 10 consecutive minutes. We went with 10 consecutive minutes because that is standard among other municipalities' anti-idling legislation. And it is also a good metric because a lot of scientific sources that I was looking at when I was, researching the anti-idling legislation say that for every, 10 minutes of idling, 1 pound of greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere. So just seemed like a good metric. It's pretty standard with the rest of the state, and that's what we went with. And that is going to be sent to the council as a resolution that will be applicable to not only city employees, but the whole, all vehicles within the city limits. Just a little infograph on how much fuel is wasted. A lot of fuel is wasted. So this policy also mandates by March 31st of every year, we will report to the mayor and the common council a variety of metrics related to our fleet and our fuel use. All of these metrics are metrics that you find in the fuel inventory and in the fleet inventory. It's just compressed into one singular report here. And this also includes greenhouse gas emissions, which is not part of the fuel or fleet inventory. All of these reports and inventories will be made public because they currently are not public. Vehicle purchase request form is a form that Sean actually worked out before I got here. It's attached to the bottom of the document. We can look at it really quick. I made no edits to the form because it was a pretty simple purchasing form. Seemed pretty decent to me. We have some definitions here if anyone is confused about the definition of a green vehicle, heavy duty vehicle, vehicle idling, etc. I also put the definition of GVWR, which is the weight class of vehicles, and it defines whether a vehicle is a heavy duty vehicle, light duty vehicle, medium duty vehicle. Yeah, and all questions can go to me. Enforcement is, me, but also the mayor and other people in this department. And this is the purchase request form. So pretty much what department wants to buy the vehicle, why they want to buy the vehicle, what year the vehicle they want to buy, how much it's going to cost, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty standard form that we already use. So that is the green fleet policy. And I am happy to discuss any comments or concerns or questions. But before we do, I would like to go over the resolution really quick because that is part of the policy. So this is the resolution that would make it a ticketable offense to idle for more than 10 minutes within the city limits. We have already brought this resolution to the comptroller's office and they signed off on it. Climate Smart Kingston signed off on it. It's very much in line with other municipalities' anti-idling legislation. Currently, the state legislation is only applicable to heavy duty vehicles, but we want, all vehicles to be regulated. Exceptions are for, of course, if a vehicle is stuck in traffic, emergency vehicles, public utility vehicles, if the vehicle is idling to power a necessary auxiliary function, if they're carrying, I don't know, cargo that needs to stay at a certain temperature, they're allowed to do that, And then the final exemption was at the request of the parking enforcement, which is that in a snow emergency, we can't really enforce anti-idling. And that was a request made by parking. And then, excuse me, anyone ticketed for idling will be subject to a $20 fine, which is standard with the rest of the fines in the city code, which doubles to $40 after 15 days, again, standard. So that's a real quick overview. We are hoping to move the anti-idling policy or anti-idling resolution through, I want to say in the next month. And once that passes, we will be able to move forward with green fleet policy. So if anyone has any questions or comments, I will gladly discuss.
Thank you, Ellie. Okay, Emily?
I think this is all great. Since we're on the on the resolution, I thought if you could move it down. It was confusing to me. I couldn't figure out where the heck chapter 390 was. So you might, obviously the city of Kingston can't change New York code, but maybe you should say, city code or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess the I think 10 minutes is a long time, unless it's really hot or really cold, but I understand your reasoning. And so I guess, but I just wanted to make sure that in Roman numeral 2, controlling cargo temperature, that doesn't mean people. So
here, 3.
Yeah, I would have to look up the exact definition of cargo. I don't think cargo includes people, but if it does, we can definitely change that word.
Because I understand where I observe idling is at the ice cream store when people sit in their air conditioning car and eat their ice cream. And they probably do sit for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll definitely check out that word. That's a good point.
And then because anyway, and then the other thing is it's my understanding that if a car is idling without any the driver there, that's a totally different law, and it doesn't, they would just get ticketed for a nuisance or some kind of safety hazard that they left their car running and someone stole it or it rolled backwards. Or
Ellie, can you speak to the occupied versus unoccupied?
Yes. So I've had this conversation with parking enforcement and the comptroller's office. Currently, parking enforcement does not ticket any occupied vehicle. So say you're sitting in your car and your meter expires and the parking people walk by, they will not ticket you because you are in your vehicle, and it is an internal policy that all parking enforcement people are not obligated to interact with the public in that way as to avoid conflict. It's a safety policy. It's an internal safety policy. Vehicles that are occupied, that goes to the police department. So an occupied idling vehicle would be something that the police would ticket, whereas an unoccupied idling vehicle is something that the parking enforcement would ticket. But if you do leave your car, so currently if they get ticketed for leaving their car, idling and they're not in it, and they get some ticket like causing a public disturbance, that would be changed. And now if somebody, leaves their car idling and they're not in it, they would be ticketed for this ticketable offense.
or idling.
Okay, other questions for Ellie or concerns particular to the resolution? Then we'll go back to the policy. Okay, anything on the policy?
Oh, yeah, I have some questions on policy. I would just suggest that, sorry. First of all, I think you're gonna have some really good spreadsheets. And it sounds like you already do have ones for the inventory.
Mhm.
And so my questions, I really appreciated that there were definitions, but you don't define medium. You never define what a medium use is, or I'm sorry, I can't remember the
Oh,
exact.
medium weight class? Yeah, we can add
I
that.
don't know if it was, is it weight class or is it use?
It's weight class. So vehicles are defined as light, medium, and heavy, and then there's like little sub definitions, depending on how much.
Oh, yeah, duty. It's medium duty. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so we can add medium and light. Absolutely.
so it doesn't, it's okay. Thank you. And, and then also in A, are you going further and looking like would a hybrid, I'm not hybrid, nickel high, like a,
Like a
I don't
conventional.
know, is there some other fuels that might come into play later on that you could capture now? And
Potentially.
Hydrogen fuel cell?
Yeah,
Pardon?
there are hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, but those are, hard to come by. I mean, potentially, give it a few more years, 5-10 years, they could become more accessible and more widespread. And at that point, we could definitely add them to the policy. This policy does mandate that it'll be revisited every year by March 31st of that year.
okay, so that sounds fine.
Okay.
And so when you do the calculation of the overall gas consumption, I assume that the goal is to have that gas consumption number go down, because if you have an electric vehicle, you have no gas, but the number of vehicles will be in the denominator. Is that true? So,
So are you talking,
I think you have to come up with miles per vehicle, miles per gallon for the entire fleet.
yeah, so
I
we
think
have
it's farther
that, we
down.
have that per vehicle. We could also do it for the
I
whole.
thought you had it for the whole fleet.
That might be in the.
I think it's in the report to the mayor. Average operating fuel economy. Oh, so that's an average, not the.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
that's a simple.
But that would
that I could
still
do.
hold. The average will change.
Yeah.
What was the metric you were looking to see?
The
Well, go ahead.
The miles per gallon, fuel consumption of the whole fleet, like combined miles per gallon.
It should go down with time as you have more.
Yes.
Yeah. And so is that true? Anyway, that was just an observation.
Mhm.
And do you have to calculate the cost of the electricity?
We don't have to calculate the cost of electricity.
We don't currently have. Okay, so
I could, because I have access to our charge point account, but some of our electric vehicles that we plug in, we do plug into like outlets. So they get put on, like, for example, the Volt that we have at this building, it gets plugged just into the, outlet at the side of the building. The charge point stations, the tricky thing about that is that the data from the charge point stations includes anybody who uses the charge point station. It's not just city vehicles. So it's really hard to say exactly how much electricity we are using to charge our vehicles without making like very broad generalizations and broad guesses.
I mean, in theory, ChargePoint has a pretty advanced software system. We could possibly filter it by the individual user.
I don't know. I actually I'm not too familiar with the ChargePoint system. I just started looking at it the other day.
Yeah,
Well, it sounds like you might want to do that eventually.
Okay, yeah, we can put
Maybe
a
not
note in there
this.
and I'll look into it. I'll see how possible that is.
Or because someone's got to look at someone is looking at your electricity use. So if it's coming out of the plug on the side of City Hall or whatever, then it's going to be charged to something.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really interesting.
Thank you.
okay, other comments, questions, or concerns about either the policy or the resolution? Okay.
It looks very good.
Thank you.
Is there any action that the CAC wants to take regarding the policy or the resolution?
Oh, can we send a suggestion that it be passed by the Common Council?
We could, well, the policy itself is internal.
Right, I meant the resolution.
So, I mean, a letter could be sent to the mayor saying, we support this, the climate, or the Conservation Advisory Council backs this policy. And in terms of the resolution will be sent to the council. So if the CAC wants to send a letter with that, there could be a letter that's drafted that says the CAC has reviewed this resolution and is supportive of it. That's two different actions. And Climate Smart, Kevin, do you remember what Climate Smart did?
I have to go pull the minutes up. Ellie may remember right off the top of her
I
head.
want to say they endorsed it.
Right.
They
Yeah.
supported it. They made a
Let me
motion
go
there.
back
They
to
said,
that.
we support this policy.
I have that here.
Policy and resolution.
Yeah, I think we should support the resolution
Pull it up.
and I'm fine with the policy, but the resolution goes to the Common Council.
Motion by Cal, seconded by Roberto. The commissioners voted to support the Green Fleet policy and anti-idling resolution in principle, with all commissioners present in favor, except for one abstention by, that's somebody on that board. Is that the kind of language we'd like to see?
Well, did that go to anyone or is it just in your minutes?
They voted to support it. It
You know,
didn't say anything about a letter, though.
But
We'll
didn't
probably put it in the letter to the council, but we just haven't done that yet because we wanted to bring it to this committee first.
right. So
Okay, well, I'm okay with doing something more formally, like supporting the resolution. What have we done in the past?
well, we haven't been in the position yet where someone else is writing a resolution that we are supporting. We've always written
Right.
and submitted the resolution from the CAC. But in this case, it would be a resolution that's being submitted by our office. So there is.
Oh, I see, yeah. So does it have a, so it just goes to the Common Council and then it filters down?
Yeah, so
Mhm.
my office will be submitting a communication to the council, and in that communication, we will say, you know, this is the proposed resolution, this is why we're doing it, blah, 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 blah. There is support from this resolution from this office, the Climate Smart Commission, and if the CAC.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we could just do that in our minutes, just like Climate Smart, or we could be more formal and say, we've been spending X amount of years looking at air pollution, and this is really important for our I don't know what the right word is, goals or whatever.
Air quality.
Help us,
goals.
yeah, help us to meet the
Improve
The
air quality.
points in our mission, in our air quality mission statement. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, particular to this council, considering this council has its own air quality subcommittee and recurring agenda item and strong initiative, it would behoove us to write go beyond the yes, we are endorsing it, but write an official letter giving the context of why.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're-
Nominate Lorraine.
Well, Emily, I'll work with you on this because you certainly have much more history with this topic. So
It definitely
with
would be
that-
most appropriate to be started by Lorraine.
But what is the deadline?
We had intended to send this to council for by the June communication deadline, which would be the May 28th. Nope,
Okay, so let's just do it right now. Let's just say, is this a resolution or is this a letter?
I think this would be a
And
motion
just,
to write a letter in support of the resolution with the background of the context of the air quality initiative.
I
okay,
actually,
so,
sorry, I actually drafted something
Oh.
that I was going to propose we send to the council that has a brief paragraph on air quality. It's very short. Let me just, if that is relevant to this conversation. It pretty much just says, emission from vehicles is, bad for the environment. It's bad for the air quality. It's a known carcinogen. Anti-idling. All right. Okay. So this is just a section from this letter I wrote. Exhaust from gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles has been classified as a likely carcinogen by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and numerous scientific studies have found links between exposure to fine particles and adverse health effects. This includes premature death and increased incidence of asthma, allergies, and other breathing disorders, especially prevalent in children and the elderly. Vehicle idling usually occurs in locations, e.g. school grounds, parking lots, retail areas, construction sites, etc., where people can be exposed to concentrated sources of air pollutants, emissions in short periods of time. Anti-idling policies are proven to increase air quality, directly impacting the health and wellness of a municipality. So that's what I drafted. Does that fit the, agenda of the Climate Action, Conservation Advisory Commission?
I,
Oh,
it
one of
sounds-
those
it sounds
Cs.
very,
One of those. Does that fit your agenda?
yeah.
Go
It
ahead,
sounds
Lorraine.
very good. I do think though that it does make sense what Julie says, that given the history that we have in working toward clean air for all, it would be important for us as a CAC to draft something. If it can be brief and just basically be in support of this resolution and mentioning our work on air quality in the past, I can certainly just draft something up quickly, run it by Emily, and ask you all in the next few days to comment on it. How does that sound?
Is that okay? So we can just agree to do that and then move it forward by a May deadline, like in a week or two? 2
Yeah.
weeks? 1 week?
I mean, I would need it finalized by like the 24th or
Okay.
25th, which is.
Okay, well, I could do it in the next 2 days and get it to Emily.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay.
So I think that we have been discussing this, but there's not actually been a motion formally. So is there a motion for the CAC is there a motion? I won't even suggest what the motion is. Is there a motion?
I could do that. And feel free to edit what I'm going to say. Making a motion to support the resolution to the council, the anti-idling legislation resolution, together with a letter to support the resolution in the context of air quality, with such letter to be finalized prior to May 24th for submission to the June council meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Oh, I second it.
Is there any discussion? Okay, then I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. Is there any other discussion about the Green Fleet policy, anti-idling, or any air quality things at all? Marco, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to contribute, or what, you want to give us an update on the BARD stuff?
Yeah, I mean, not too many updates on the BARD end, just with the semester and everything. Things are kind of crazy. I mean, the only thing that I can say is I'm still working with Patrick to get the weather station grounded on the roof of the Murphy Center. He's getting a quote for me, but he's pretty swamped. So, but we have been in touch. I need to come by to put the rain gauge up, kind of figured out how I'm going to do that. So I will just correspond with you, Julie. I just this morning took down the PM 2.5 sensors that were at one of our community members' houses in Uptown Kingston, so on Fair Street. And we'll be looking at those data. We have an intern who's going to be working with, I think, some of the residential Kingston data over the summer. So Michaela, you guys know Michaela. And what else? I think that's it.
And the final presentation of the data that has been collected.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. So for Julie and Lorraine, the final presentation for the EUS 411 data class on the residential air quality at your guys's places will be this coming Wednesday. So a week from Tuesday, excuse me. So a week from today. And there's some pretty cool stuff in there. So I think you guys will be surprised at the capacity of these low cost sensors. I think that's it. Thanks for that reminder.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on this topic?
No, just so I'm clear in drafting this, Kevin was kind of very quick in his motion, so I want to make sure this is to support the resolution. We are not we're not referring to the Green Fleet policy in this, are we? In this letter, or are we?
I don't think so.
No, right? Okay, just to make sure. Good, thank you.
Yeah, that's an internal city
Yeah.
matter, right?
Okay, right.
Okay.
We're not commenting on that. Okay, thank you.
Anything else on that topic? Okay, Ellie, thank you so much. You're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go. We appreciate your
I
time.
have to get going, but thank you guys. And nice to meet everybody. Bye. Have a good night.
You too.
Take up as well. Good to see you all.
Thanks, Marco.
Take care.
Thank you, Marco.
All right, so moving on to NRI Open Space Project and Conservation Board, Housing Nexus. Any updates on any of that?
Well, I think I did the last go around. I sort of gave an update on different codes that we had come across and resolutions authorizing establishments of a 239Y board. The question comes up is, are we moving forward on an open space index with prioritization?
We would have to in order to become a board.
Right. So do we want to start that process or think about it?
I personally think that we should. Whether or not we become a board or not, I personally think that we should. I think that it gives us a framework and roadmap for how to actually advance on the parcel level for the open space.
Mhm.
I don't know what other people's thoughts are.
I think we should.
And
And-
I'm gonna guess we'd be starting, we'd be working from John Mickelson's, that large spreadsheet with, every section, block and lot in the city, right?
Okay, so
Okay.
what does that look like?
We'll have to look at the open space plan, look at this, and go back into the NRI as well, and start seeing how many parcels check off the criteria, which parcels are the most appropriate to recommend.
Mhm.
We did this differently at Kingston Land Trust. I think we had actual policies with stating the criteria, and then it was a bit more of a subjective process where does it look like it meets this criteria or that criteria or XYZ criteria, whatever. This is more, it's right in the spreadsheet. I think the way John presented it to us. So you just have to rearrange, the spreadsheet to achieve what you're looking for.
Right. So is that something that you all want me to take a crack at and bring back for review, or does somebody want to take that on?
I can try it. I hope I have time, in May to do this, but yeah, I could try it.
So Kevin, if you want to take a crack at that, and we
Yeah.
can. if you
I
can invite-
worked on it before doing this, just for, something would come up and I just say, well, I wonder if this meets the, the open space, index that John had devised. And so I have played around with it, but it is unwieldy because of the sheer volume of data that's in there. Yeah, so we'll start it and see if how unwieldy it actually turns out to be once we're doing it on a greater scale than one or two properties.
Okay. Great. We can take a look at that at a future meeting.
Yep.
Anything else on that topic? All right. By the way, if you do like to hang out on the city's website, a gentleman from the DEC, Nate Nardi Cyrus, is such a challenging name for me, had done a presentation on open space plans, and in doing so had a section highlighting multiple municipalities, including ours, and there's like a 5-minute section where he very succinctly puts together how we got to our plan and our wins so far. And I got permission from him to crop out that section of this presentation and put it on our website. So
cool.
there's like this is how we got there, this is what we've done, and see the cuts in Kingston Land Trust, this, and it's like super succinct and fun. So check out the web, if you go to kingston-ny.gov/NRI, that is there. So that's good. I also was contacted the other day by a gentleman who was doing an article about the Wilbur Avenue property that was purchased by the land trust and how that fits into the open space plan. And I spoke to that, and he said he was reaching out to the land trust as well. I cannot remember his name or his affiliation at this time.
Will Solomon and the River.
Yep, that's it. Okay, did you speak with him as well?
No, Greg was speaking to him, Greg Shaheen at Kingston Land Trust. So I just, deferred to Greg on that.
Okay.
Mainly because I'd also gotten an email back from Will. It's like he had contacted me to get the CAC perspective or the city perspective, which I think, Julie, you are much better to do because I'm on this board and I'm on the land trust board.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was already speaking to Greg, so I just figured I should just step back,
Yeah, I spoke to him from the city's perspective.
Mhm.
Okay. Another thing that I'm interested in doing as part of this is creating some way of tracking our tree planting. I know that we have a goal of hitting 1,000 trees in 10 years. I'm going to figure out how to create some sort of system for tracking that. But what I need to understand better and look into the open space plan is whether or not we stipulated whether or not that would be 1,000 trees in the city or 1,000 trees on public land. Because that is very, very broadly different. So for instance, 18 trees were just planted on Pine Grove on city public land. So those would certainly count. We're putting in 60 or 70, whatever trees it is on Broadway, all these different, the trees that got planted on Greenkill. Those are all on public land. However, then there's trees on private land, which certainly are harder to calculate. But for example, Hutton Brickyard's property has put in probably 100 plus trees. Does that count? Does that not count? So I need to look into the open space plan to see if we stipulated that. And I'm going to start figuring out how we're going to track that. If we did stipulate that it's on city property, that's going to be a much bigger task, certainly, than it's on private. But if it is on private, there's also much harder to actually track. So just wanted to kind of mention that I plan on kind of working on that, because I think that if we don't start now tracking it, there's no way for us to really, we got to get on that, because it's something we want to be able to say, this is how far we are along. We also just got a grant from the Department of Environmental Conservation and we got $50,000 for tree planting. So that will be $50,000 worth of more trees that are going to be planted as street trees or park trees. I think it's all street trees, actually. So I will begin tracking that, and if anyone has insight into that process, certainly reach out to me, and we can talk about it at the next meeting as well. Okay, anything else on open space? All right, if not, anything else on the Hutton Brickyard development review?
I don't think so at this time. I don't know, unless anybody.
Wait, where does Tanya's letter come in to the
Yeah.
planning board?
That comes in under communications.
Oh, okay.
At this point, since the planning board already approved the current phase of the site plan, I'm not sure that there's any reason for us to continue to have this on our agenda.
Right. Unless there's an issue with an ongoing issue with the gate. Last month, the planning board, I don't think Suzanne's on anymore. Otherwise, she could give you the update. But I think they updated the public access component.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And actually, you're right, Emily. And in consideration of Tanya, since the communication is regarding the open space plan, I would be fine talking about that now. Tanya, if you wanted to speak to that, I did circulate the letter, the note that you sent to me to the CAC, but would you like to speak on it?
Thanks. Well, I guess just that, it was really mainly about the open space plan, with the Hutton Brickyards process being an example of them not really having any evidence of really knowing what's in the open space plan, because just the way that they answered that question without it's such a large section. The parking lot was even something, the parking lot wasn't something that they hadn't thought about, hadn't had responses about, but that they didn't answer. I don't have that. I can pull up the letter, but I guess you all saw it anyway. It's just that letter was that when they got to that question, that should have been mentioned if they knew about it. But I don't think that they knew about it. They don't know what is covered in the open space plan. It might just be a matter of them. They were. I'm sure that they looked at it during the review times. There were those public meetings where those giant boards were up, so they had the opportunity to really get a good and easy look at it. But it might be, I don't know, it might be good for them to somehow have a presentation, I was wondering, or something like that, or maybe that would be part of the zoning code override, because it's a large part of the comprehensive plan. So that kind of thing is going to have to be talked about anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did formally share the open space plan and the process with the planning board as it was going on, but that happened when the open space plan was adopted, which was over a year ago. I mean, there are different, I'm actually not currently very familiar with what the makeup is of the planning board, but
A couple
there's new
people
folks, I
left.
think that there certainly are some new folks, but I know that you sent a communication to Sue as well, who I
I
presume.
really wanted them to read it, yeah, to know that it's just as a reminder that they really should review it. It's a pretty easy to look at document too. It's got it all kind of.
Yeah, well, it does address, it's a good point to realize that the planning boards can change, and those people probably need to get briefed on a lot of information. And so and whether or not they went to our meeting where we had the tree commission, when we had the tree inventory in the open space, we had that meeting, which I believe they were invited to. I don't know if they attended, and that was quite a while ago. So the question is, yeah, what do we do? When in your letter, did you include the link to the open space? I think you
actually might not have, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know that they are required to do a certain amount of training throughout the year, but I think that they end up just. I know that Suzanne one time told me that she points them to definitely learning about the seeker process, and it's a very small amount of training that they're required to do. And I don't think that people on the planning board really, this is not like, doesn't tend to be a passion of the members of the planning board planning at all. I think that they've come to it for different reasons. So I don't think they're inclined to, just browse around things.
Yeah, so did anyone speak to Suzanne about her reaction to the letter?
I didn't get a reply.
Mm-hmm. Did she, well, do we have a nice hardbound copy we could send over?
Send to each planning board member? I don't think I have that many copies.
No, but to
the planning department, yes.
With the idea that at some point we might meet in public again and they could have it on their desk.
That's a great
Oh
idea.
yeah, a reference copy.
That's a great idea.
And otherwise, we just sent them a letter. We just agreed to send them a letter about the code. And
well, I mean,
about the fire code.
I can certainly send them a copy. That's fine. And I could also just have a note to Sue that says, if if you would like to set up a meeting that where we could go over it or see, have a training or discuss it, I can offer that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so should we respond or to Tanya's letter or,
I responded to Tanya's letter saying that I would forward it to the CAC.
right, so then, so what? So I agree that, I mean, maybe they have some stuff that they should tell us. It goes back to kind of, and every once in a while, kind of learning from each other about what we're doing. So perhaps just another email to everyone saying that, you know, here's the link, here's, you know, the one kind of fold out, and offered to, you know, give them a presentation and invite them to do likewise if they have anything they think we should know about planning that would help us do our job better.
Okay, I can send that communication to Sue. Or do you want me to send it to the planning board chair?
Planning board chair.
What's everyone else's feelings on that? Generally okay? Or not okay? Kevin, you're muted.
Yeah, maybe send it to Wayne and Suzanne so that, you know, if, you know, just in case it, just so it gets out there.
I'm fine with that. Anyone else have issue with that?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else on open space plan? All right, so then moving on, thank you, Tanya, and everyone on that topic. Any updates on Isopus Creek? Ashoka release environmental review.
I haven't heard anything. The EMC drafted a letter, and so is Hurley, Saugerties, and Marbletown. But I haven't heard any more from the Water Quality Coordinating Committee or Ulster County for submitting something with substantial comments. I haven't. And I know, I think the town of Ulster has also encouraged their, either Saugerties or Ulster encouraged their citizens to voice their opinion.
Okay, also the council adopted the memorializing resolution, which I just forwarded to you all, which is
Oh,
resolution
great.
84 of 2021.
Yay.
So that was mailed today by the clerk's office.
Julie, where is that?
What's that?
Oh, that you mailed it. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
It was emailed today. I just forwarded an email just now to all of you.
Okay,
It's
thanks.
resolution 84 of 2021, which was signed off just this couple days ago.
Yeah, and I attended, I think it was last Thursday. There was a session, a Zoom session that Rebecca was basically with Amanda, reviewing the whole matter, you know, and providing an update. The gist of which, I mean, I think we'd already covered a lot of the specifics in there, but they were, you know, they just were reminding people to get comments in by June.
Right.
Wait, who was that?
Amanda Laval and Rebecca were both
Okay.
on this. I believe it was last Thursday.
Okay. Anything else on that? Anything on water quality septic code review?
Yeah. So I've been in contact with Greg Krupp at the city, and Greg finished an inventory of the properties within the city that are septic systems. And so his spreadsheet, he has about 113 identified. He said 18 of those are still yet to be confirmed whether or not they do have septic systems.
How is he confirming it?
I'm not sure if he's doing site visits or not. He said he still needs to check.
So we helped spur a data set that didn't exist.
Sounds
Yeah.
like that.
Well, Greg, to be fair to him, he did say that he was working on this. It just kind of fell by the wayside. And so I think that was the issue of concern. And then also as brought up last time that there should be something in this that also addresses downspouts.
Yeah.
Which I'm not quite sure how to proceed on. In terms of septic systems, Greg also proposed a recommendation that I thought was great. That was basically right now the city code A407-102 requires that homes connect to the city system when being built. And he proposed that it be amended to also connect to the city system when there's a transfer of property. So I think people's concerns were, one, is this affect a significant number of properties within the city of Kingston? Do people feel like 130, do people feel like that's a significant enough number to warrant us taking any further look at this?
There's like 8,000 properties in the city, just as a reference. So this is fractionally super small,
Well, I guess
0.01%.
how many are commercial?
I don't think there's anything wrong with me just sharing the spreadsheet. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't
I would,
share it. I don't know that that's public. I don't think we should share
yeah,
it.
I wouldn't do it,
Okay.
but I mean, this is the issue of whether or not there's maybe pollution coming out of the septic. Or if someone also has a well, that could be an issue with their own or nearby wells.
Right,
Or
just
just pollution of a water body.
right. 180
or water body.
septic systems doesn't mean by default 118 sources of pollution. Just
Right, no, it doesn't.
But we have 108 properties, right? Okay.
113, excuse me.
13. Okay, well, still, let's, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
my point is, what are the issues? I'm just like thinking out loud about what the issues are.
I'm wondering, without looking at a map, which we don't want to look at, right? Where these properties are located, how far are they from the city system, and what's the, the cost burden to the property owner on this?
The way the policy is currently written within the city code, it just says basically where applicable.
What are you referencing? What says what?
So what Kevin just was saying, that potentially homes that are too far from the city system connecting could be a serious cost burden. The section of city code A407-102 says it must connect to the city system where it is available. I don't know. They don't really define, I don't think.
When you talked to Greg, a couple questions. Was he is he mapping it? And B, is he doing it because of a concern or just as a data set?
He was mapping it. He was waiting to get those other 18 properties figured out before he created the map. And then the second question was, is he just creating this as a data set, or is he creating it because of my request?
No. What was his original intent of creating this data set? because he has concerns or just to
Yeah,
have?
he was also concerned about this, and they wanted to see which ones. I wanted to get the number. We asked because people wanted to make sure that we're talking about a significant number of households.
Right.
So I went to Greg with that question. In order to do that, Greg went pretty methodically and identified which properties would have septic systems. That created this list. Now Greg is going to verify the remaining 18 and then make a map of those septic systems. I imagine that's for them internally as well.
I think that would be more, it'd be a lot easier to look at a map to see to see their location with relationship to many things.
Right, but again, like, I just want to emphasize that just because you have a septic system doesn't mean you are polluted.
No, that's
doesn't.
true.
Right, right.
There was a similar policy that was put in place in Queensbury and Bolton, and in one of the communities, I can't remember which one, it was about half of the systems they inspected were failing in some way. That's not a great data point because it's just one community. But it is to say that there was a potential for, at least in there, when they implemented this, they discovered about half of the systems were failing in some way. And it might not always be severe. It might not be that it's just draining sewage into the ground. It might be something small that impairs the ability of the septic system to function.
So in speaking with Greg, did you get the impression that he plans on doing something with this information that we can help with?
It's unclear from the email. He suggested the addition to amending the sewer, the article that I keep referencing, A407102.
Right.
But apart from that, he didn't suggest any other course of action that we could take.
Okay. So is that something we want to take up? Modifying the code?
If I may too, I think it would be, my perspective would be like a yes and. It would be Greg's suggestion, which would ensure that properties that can, I think the city code is actually more specific than I let on to begin with. That about any street, alleyway, right away where there's now located or maybe located a public sanitary sewer of the city of Kingston. So the code is pretty clear about if you are located on a street which may have in the near future or currently has, then you have to connect to it. So one proposition, Greg's proposition, would be amending that to ensure that with the sale of a home, that connection is established as well, if it can be established. The other piece of legislation or resolution would be inspections for the sales of homes that can't be connected to the public sanitary system.
And he suggested that?
That was me suggesting that.
And Queensbury and Bolton Landing have that?
They do. They have it based upon zoning. So they have their waterfront zoned, and their waterfront is regulated under the septic inspection. I can send over the draft or their legislation if you'd like, just in the chat.
I guess it will be a good thing, as Emily said, to look at a map, because one thing I'm wondering is, of those home owners or residents, how many who have septics also have wells? I don't know if they're mutually exclusive, but that would be important to know too, I think. So Greg is going to be generating some kind of map, you said, Sebastian?
That was what he said in his email. I will add to that. He did say one of the ways that he was going about identifying who might have septic systems was specifically looking at properties that are connected to water, but that are not connected to sewage. So it may be that none of these homes have wells and they're all connected to municipal water.
And then it would be important to see if they're near any streams or, yeah, so the map is important.
So right now, it's kind of interesting because a homeowner is billed for sewage use based on water use.
Right.
So so let me see how to say this. So if they don't have septic, they would still be paying based on their water. If they don't have sewage, they would still be, I mean, I guess they could say, well, I'm not using the sewer. And that's a way for people to know that they have a septic tank. Do you understand?
So we could look at the billing system and we're,
No, it would be much more like someone coming in and going, oh, I just noticed I'm getting a sewage bill on my water bill. And, or however that works. And, but I'm not connected to the sewer.
Right, so the reality is these 113 homes are paying for a service that they are not using.
That could potentially be true, yes.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I really am not sure, but as I recall the bills I've been getting for so many years, I thought that we were only charged for water usage, and the sewage is just assumed on those calculations. I don't remember ever seeing. I could be wrong. I'd have to look at the bill.
So they don't know how much you're flushing down the toilet, so they measure how much you're taking into your house. So if it's my understanding that, so if you're watering your lawn and it's not going out into the sewer, you're still paying because you're paying.
Sewer rate.
Your sewer rate is based on your water use.
Mm-hmm.
They're not metering the outgoing sewage. Anyway, I think, did we talk about our equally concern about buried oil tanks or buried gasoline tanks? We did, right? Okay. I just think we need more information to move ahead and see how we can help the engineering department if need be.
There's also another provision, A407-77. It's entitled "When No Sewer System is Available." The Ulster County Department of Health gets involved, and the application is made through the plumbing inspector for a septic tank with capacities, leaching areas, and plant locations subject to the terms of approval issued by the Department of Health. And we have a cabin in Rosendale that has, that we're, I mean, this is a common thing in that area in Rosendale, even if you're outside of the village, or what used to be the village of Rosendale once upon a time. You don't have, you have septic, you just do. You don't have a sewer and you can't connect to it. And I'm just wondering, again, back to this 113 properties, if some of them are, I'll just throw out an area, say somewhere like way off of Wilbur Avenue, far off of Chapel Street, way out there, they might not be a sewer there.
yeah.
Right.
And
That's why I think we need more information. I think it's an interesting thing, and we should.
It's a very, it's an interesting topic. Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure.
And Kevin, to your question, which I think is a good one, I think that will be the second part, which is just the septic inspection with the sale of a home. So if you're not able to connect to the city system, what I'm referencing, what the city of Bolton did was say, get your septic system inspected before you can transfer the property, basically. So in those cases where someone can't do city connection, it would just be ensure kind of a regular-ish inspection of a septic system. But I think that I understand too. We can come back maybe next time with a map and see if there are any properties that abut streams and go from there to see if it's significant.
Okay, and when you're getting that information from Greg, can you also understand from him or see if he can check with Corporation Counsel as to whether that information is public, because if we're
Yeah,
discussing a map and this is a public meeting, we need to know whether or not that information is public.
Gotcha.
And kind of get his take on if he wants to move forward a resolution with our support, if he wants us to move forward a resolution, if he has intent, or if that's like down the line, or where he is on that.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. Anything else on that?
Not for me.
Okay. Roundup Creek stream gauge. I just wanted to close the loop a little bit on that, in that at the last meeting I had said that I had gotten communication from Gary Wall about the Maritime Museum and he having a conversation about removing the infrastructure. I got back to him and, I got back to him and said that we don't have any funding available right now to keep it going, but that the city would be supportive of having it there if somebody were to fund it. He said that he got back to he had been in communication with the Maritime Museum ongoing, and that they said that if there was a chance of it being refunded and reactivated, they would support it staying there. And he said that in the past, the Maritime Museum has had real-time data from that infrastructure, so that they would benefit from that. So all this being said, he was going to go back to them and let them know that we want it to stay just in case it ever gets reactivated, and that he would pass that message on to them. So I haven't heard anything since then. And there's no current commitment to any kind of funding from us or the county.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on that? That's all old business. Moving on to new business. Everyone okay still going? Or do we want to call it?
Well, we could take a break.
I think either keep going or call it. I think break would just
break. Yeah, we'll call it when we come back from the break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Is there any new business?
Yep.
Sorry. Okay.
Mission and scope draft rewrite, and
Right.
there's city plan review. Engage Kingston. I wanted to just go over that.
I
Okay.
proposed the first one, and I'm happy to wait until next month.
Okay. And the second was to what we had discussed to look at. Well, I think that something that we have thought about in the past was to expand the scope of the CAC's review, in that we currently review proposals that come before the planning board, but we don't review plans that are internal to the city, like Henry Street proposed project or Flatbush and Foxhall or things like that. And I wanted to just draw everyone's attention to engagekingston.com or .org rather, which is where those plans are posted for public input. And then that could be an avenue for the CAC to provide input. So actually this agenda item could be as simple as everyone take a look at that, and we can decide in future meetings if there's something that we want to comment on. So for new business A, CAC mission and scope, we're tabling that then, Sebastian?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah.
I think that for the plan review and engagekingston.org, I'm just gonna have everyone just take a look at that for next month, and we can see if there's anything in particular that we want to weigh in on as a city plan. I will put that on next month's agenda as well. So communications we've already gone over. Announcements or events, I do want to make not announcement. I just want to give folks an update. There isn't firm guidance yet, but it is likely that in the next month or so, the city will be shifting back to in-person meetings, but actually there will be a hybrid of such. And the intent is that hopefully by the summer, the meetings will be held at City Hall with a public and hybrid remote option, so that either council members or the public can participate, whether they are there or online. This requires an incredible amount of new technology and infrastructure to be placed there, because all public meetings are now going to be held in the common council chambers instead of conference room 1, and that requires a lot of just literal infrastructure in that room, which is terribly, the acoustics in that room are terrible. But just to be able to tape it, to have it live streamed, to have it, people be able to interact, to have some people there, some people home, all that needs to be figured out. But what this is all to say that this is right now dependent on, at any time, the governor could lift the open meetings restrictions that we have, or executive order that is now, that we are able to have these remote meetings, but he could lift that at any time. And so just to keep folks aware that, just keep on to, I will keep you informed, but at any time we may be switching to either hybrid or some other system besides this. Are there any other announcements or events? Is there an update from Complete Streets?
No, they meet tomorrow, which I just found out from looking at the website. I didn't get a notification, and I have something going on at the same time, so I will try to be there, but otherwise Greg will send me the minutes, so it's tomorrow.
Okay. Planning, sorry, anything else?
Nope.
Planning board, anything else, Kevin?
Yeah, Higginsville Station, that's the Daily Freeman. There are, Scott Dutton's involved with that. He's one of the owners, and he's making a connection to the O&W rail trail there. And that's coming up before the planning board. You can look it up on their website, and you can see the site plans and the proposed route. There is a wetlands there, but I think, Scott's pretty good at not going into wetlands. So it had support from John Grossballen, who's trails person. Right, so I think that's that was the one thing. Then 264 Lucas was back again, or is going to be back again. And they were seeking, it's been back and forth with attorneys involved now. And one of the issues was a definition of how much open space is required in that project and how it's defined. And we didn't go into that at all here at this council. And they're required to have a certain amount of public open space on this type of development. And the question is how do you define that? Is it, if there's something that has a gazebo, is that part of it? Or is that covered and it's not open space? Or the sidewalks are okay. What about the grassy area next to the sidewalk? Is that open space, or is that just, something that sits between the curb and the sidewalk, So they're going back and forth. The adjoining owners at Bluestone Court are taking a like one position, and the developers taking a more broadly based position that it's certainly there's a lot of open space. So again, I wouldn't want to comment because there's lawyers involved and it's before the planning board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Zoning or
Wait,
public?
I had one question.
Yeah.
I had one question. What about the development that is going in the former jail site? I thought I saw that there were asking for, is there anything going on with that yet? Have you guys read anything? Not in front of the planning board necessarily, but just like visioning or?
No, there was correspondence on that a while back, but there was an issue with Secra, the way they were doing some of this, and they had include Lawton Park. And if Tanya's here, she'll remember exactly what I'm talking about. Because I think she had
I
corresponded.
thought Lawton Park was on the other side of the road.
Yeah, but I think it was kind of included, and it was all, yeah, they were lumping stuff together, and they were going to do a zoning change, and then the new zoning with Dover Coal came into play, and I think that kind of
Well, anyway, there's nothing going on just with the developers. Well, maybe Tanya knows. Is she gone? She's gone.
Tanya,
It's just something even just we may want to pay attention to, but if it's nothing's happening yet. I thought I read something somewhere.
Recently?
No, a month ago or so, maybe.
Hmm.
That's okay. Well, does it have a name? You don't know. Okay.
No.
don't know.
There was a proposal to rezone. That's what it was.
Okay. No,
And-
this was much more about kind of community stakeholder input.
And I
Okay.
think Don was involved, and then Don, I think Don's position now is he wanted to see Dover Coal come in rather than start
okay.
piecemealing the zoning any further. I believe
Yeah.
that's his position. That's what he told me anyway, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah, so with zoning, I guess that's the next thing up here. I was just in touch with Andrea and we're just waiting on, I think they're doing contracts with Dover Coal.
okay,
So we don't have the firm timetable up and running till that process is done.
okay. Excellent. Climate smart, we
I have a
went over the
minute.
green fleet policy, as we talked about before. No real update on the climate action plan at this point, although there is a project advisory committee meeting next week to finalize and hear all the final public engagement work from Citizens for Local Power. We kind of gave a wrap up on Earth Day activities, which included tabling at the farmer's market and the pizza box campaign. A maritime museum display is going to be put up or is up already that focuses on climate smart initiatives as part of it. Climate change, but a climate smart activities is going to be part of it. We talked about stretch code, I guess, a little bit, and how that has been adopted. Everything else was kind of sort of the standard work that's been worked on.
Dutch card was adopted, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yep.
And the rest of it, we had, the similar discussion with Ellie that we had tonight here, only we had it over there.
Okay, any update from the EMC, Molly?
Yeah, so as I said before, they did send in a show can release letter in, and we're tracking Dan Scammer. And the main thing is I would think to say that most of the, I'm going to start over for a minute. Let me see. So the green, there's a new green initiative with Ulster County that was announced on Earth Day. And part of that is a solarized campaign for community solar. The county has found 3 vendors, has reached out to 3 vendors, and the towns can piggyback on those to use those vendors. And one of the sites is near Bloomington, and one is in Saugerties that are the actual community solar. And then there's some situation where if a town, this is through NYSERDA and the clean communities. What is that? What's the clean?
Clean
I'm
Energy
sorry.
Community Leadership
Climate
Rep.
Leadership
Yeah.
Community Protection Act.
No, it's the opposite. The other climate smart through NYSERDA. The one that Hudson Valley Regional Council.
The Clean Energy Communities Leadership.
Clean energy. Okay, so they apparently there's something where if you get 10 people in your town to sign up for community solar, you can get several $1,000s. And it sounds like it's kind of like first come, first serve. And everyone seemed to be pretty interested in that, looking into that. And most of them are also working on the stretch code. Olive has just put in for a bronze climate smart. And so again, my observation is a lot of the EMCs are working on climate things.
So it was Town of Olive, right? On the bronze.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Were anything from the tree commission, Emily?
Yes, so the tree commission is pretty interesting. So as Julie said, they applied for an urban forestry grant in 2019 and it finally came through because of COVID and everything. So that grant is $50,000 plus a match of $12,500 a quarter or so. And so that means that, and so they're looking to start planting trees in spring 2022 or fall 2022. So to kind of get moving on that with the idea they would have an application for homeowners to apply to get a street tree put in front of their house. And they estimate there would be about $1,000 a tree. So those would be part of the open space count. But it's you know, to do it right, they figure it's going to be pretty expensive. And then there was discussion about making sure to I made the suggestion and they did, to fill in where there's low tree canopy as opposed to putting a tree where there's higher tree canopy, and also just to outreach to appropriate used appropriate outreaches really. And then also the tree, sorry, the Memorial Tree Fund, which is a countywide situation, has decided to give about $5,000 a year for trees, and that $5,000 would go for helping to remove a tree or plant it, and it also would be by application. It sounds like when you come up with the money, it'd be like two somewhat substantial projects and two that would be like $250. So it'd be, probably go pretty fast. And then also there's $8,000 that the city has to plant trees this year.
Did they say anything about using the inventory that was created? Because in the tree inventory.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, they're definitely going to use the inventory, and they're looking for the tree commission people to volunteer. So just go to back. So there's a tree inventory by Arbor Pro. I know I'm going to say Arbor Code, but I think that's the wrong name. Arbor Pro. And so they identified like 1,000 places where there were tree pits or an area where there may have been a tree, and they would like to go out and kind of prioritize those, but they were also going to do it by application. And yes, so that's how they would identify it, and to go back and see really, is there enough room? And they talked about buried anything that, buried cables or that kind of thing. But yes, they were definitely thinking they would be using that inventory. And I think that also to what Tanya said earlier was, the new people on any commission need to know what has gone before and what kind of documents they should be familiar with, I would just say. So, and they did have a tree planting. The mayor was there on Arbor Day. Also, oh, yeah. So I think that was all for the tree commission and the EMC.
Okay, great. Are there any other reports or updates? Okay, then we are at the end of our agenda. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion
Motion.
to adjourn.
Okay, I'll second it then.
Emily, having seconded, any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
8:55 PM. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for all your patience and
Bye.
understanding.
Yes, you all too. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, good night.